Coming up on Focal Point.
An MSU Museum curator was found guilty of plagiarism. I'll have all the details for you.
Vice President Mike Pence makes a stop in Lansing.
Coming up on Focal Point this week, I'll tell you about a local bakery that only sells this sweet treat once a year.
Focal Point starts now.
Hello and welcome to Focal Point. I'm Alina Juravel.
And I'm Sam Britton. We begin with a developing story from right here on the Michigan State campus. It started nearly a year ago with an accusation of plagiarism. That turned into an investigation and now a suspension of the MSU Museum director. We sat down with that director, Mark Auslander, and with the professor who spoke out that his research had been plagiarized.
The pottery I have here is from this one location on Drummond Island.
He may be retired, but he still works.
I don't have any job duties. I can do whatever I want.
In 2018, Dr. William Lovis found himself here at the MSU Museum. He was doing research on a 500-year-old Bolivian mummy. And just when he thought his work was wrapping up, well, it was only just getting started. His work was plagiarized.
I've got multiple lines of evidence coming together.
A Michigan State committee suspended MSU Museum Director Mark Auslander this week. Before the suspension, Lovis and Auslander saw the plagiarism case differently.
That's a serious violation of research protocols, and I was very annoyed by it.
Lovis says he didn't get credit for his work in a newsletter published by Auslander.
Dr. Auslander has been found guilty of plagiarism, falsification, the distribution of falsified data, the lack of crediting of researchers, and questionable research practices.
Guilty after a one-year investigation by different university panels.
I do think that certain aspects have been blown out of proportion really dramatically. The claim that there was any kind of research misconduct is ridiculous.
The museum director says he apologized.
The positive side is I've shared a corrected version of the newsletter. I've certainly apologized in writing to Dr. Lovis. I do think we can look forward now.
Well, he claims to have given me an apology, but every time he apologizes, he comes up with an excuse. It was an accident. It was inadvertent. It wasn't that big a deal.
The mummy has since been returned to Bolivia, the newsletter taken offline, and the controversy continues.
Is this a career-ending mistake for Dr. Auslander? All right, well, from my perspective, it should be.
Auslander's replacement doesn't have a long walk. From across the street, the dean of MSU Libraries takes over during his one-month suspension. We aren't sure if the suspension is temporary or if Auslander is suspended without pay. The committees involved tell us they will have specific details in the coming weeks.
In the race for the presidency and the election, Vice President Mike Pence made an appearance in Lansing. The last time the vice president came to Michigan was in December for a rally in Holland. He was back on Tuesday, this time to talk to farmers. The vice president touched down at the Capital Region International Airport just before noon. He spent the afternoon with members of the Michigan Farm Bureau at the Lansing Center. He talked about the administration's commitment to tax cuts and free trade. From Lansing, the vice president rode a bus to Troy, where he rallied for President Trump's re-election. President Trump is running virtually unopposed in the Republican primaries. But on the Democratic side, 6 nominees continue to fight for the nomination.
That's right. Bernie Sanders won big in the Nevada caucuses, showing broad appeal with all types of voters. The Vermont senator won in Iowa, New Hampshire, and Nevada. South Carolina's primary is tomorrow, and Sanders could be considered the frontrunner at this point, and the other candidates are taking notice. Sanders took the heat in Tuesday's debate from those other candidates. They say he is unelectable. They argue that if he wins the election in 2020, he will hurt fellow Democrats and lose to President Trump.
I was wrong, and I apologize. I will win South Carolina.
Where it comes down to Donald Trump with his nostalgia for the social order of the 1950s and Bernie Sanders with the nostalgia for the revolutionary politics of the 1960s.
Do we think health care for all, Pete, is some kind of radical communist?
Tearing our party apart. We're going to watch Donald Trump spend the next 4 years tearing our country apart.
Look, Bernie and I agree on a lot of things, but I think I would make a better president than Bernie.
The South Carolina primary is tomorrow. Then, only 3 days later, it's Super Tuesday when a number of states, including Texas and California, hold primaries on the same day. The Michigan primary is on March 10th.
That's coming pretty fast. Michaela Temple is live with Lansing City Clerk. They have all you need to know about how to vote.
Yeah, guys, I'm here at the Lansing City Clerk's office in the room where election inspectors will be trained today to help out with the election process. But first, I'm here with Lansing City Clerk Chris Swope to talk about the details of the upcoming primary election. Chris, thank you for joining me.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
So can you start by telling me a little bit about the primary election and what you think people should know?
Well, one thing that's important to know is that we have a separate ballot for the Democratic candidates and Republican candidates. So when you get to the polling place, you will have to select on your application to vote which political party ballot you want. So you need to know what party, if you have a specific candidate, they are on the ballot for. We'll have samples if you're not sure, but you do have to make that declaration when you get to the polls. But it does not obligate you to vote for any particular candidate or party in the future. It's just which ballot you want to vote for this election.
So a few years ago, there were some changes with the absentee voting process. Can you tell me a little bit about how voters can get an absentee ballot nowadays?
Sure. It used to be you had to meet certain eligibility or reasons to vote absentee. Now everybody has a right to vote absentee, and it's really easy to get an absentee ballot. You can either come in person to the clerk's office and fill out an application, or you can send us an application by email, fax, or snail mail. It does have to be a signed application, and for this March presidential primary, again, it does have to indicate which political party ballot you want, because we can only send you one ballot.
So on top of the absentee voting changes, there were also changes with registering to vote in person. Can you tell me about that process now too?
Sure. It used to be there was a deadline to register. Now you can register up to Election Day in person at the clerk's office, but you need to bring proof of your residency, proof of where you live.
So why are the primaries so important to vote in and not just voting in the general election?
Well, it's how we pick the candidates that move forward to the general. So if your candidate doesn't make it forward, you can't vote for them in November. So you need to make sure that they get through the primary.
Awesome. Well, Chris, thank you so much for joining me. All that information was super helpful, especially with the primaries coming up so quickly. So once again, the primary election takes place on March 10th with polls opening at 7 a.m. and closing at 8 p.m. Live at the South Washington Office Complex, I'm Michaela Temple. Sam, Alina, back to you.
Thanks, Michaela. After her first full year in office, U.S. Representative Alyssa Slotkin heard feedback from the Lansing area in a town hall she held last week. Slotkin, along with special guest State Representative Julie Brixey, highlighted their accomplishments in office so far. Brixey discussed her part in fixing the roads, while Slotkin touted health care as a main concern of hers. Some questions from the audience included increasing tensions in Iran and Washington's interest to protect the Great Lakes. Slotkin also addressed her voice to impeach President Donald Trump, which she says was not a decision she took lightly.
My hope, whether it's supporters or people who don't agree with me, is that they see that I made the decision in a thoughtful way, that I really dug deep into what I believe is my oath of office, and that I did it from a place of duty.
Slotkin supporters were not the only ones in attendance. A handful of protesters showed up to voice their frustration with the representative. This was Slotkin's 9th town hall meeting, something she says helps her connect with the people she represents.
A few weeks ago, Lansing teen Uwimana Gasito was at the East Lansing 7-Eleven on Grove Street when he was handcuffed by police officers. Gasito said he was pushed to the ground and hit his head. And this past Sunday, a rally was put on to protest what happened outside of East Lansing City Hall. Protesters stood outside of City Hall on Abbott Road, waving signs at people and cars going by. Some of them saying like justice for Uwimana, while others talked about police brutality. The man who organized the event says he just doesn't want this case to go unnoticed.
The message here is for transparency and for accountability. And for many years, the East Lansing Police Department have ignored the people. And I didn't want this case to be another case. You know, I wanted my friend's case to be heard.
For some, the protest continued to last night. Body camera footage was released at East Lansing City Hall Council meeting, and the public got to see it. The videos include security footage of the 7-Eleven where Gasito got into a fight with another customer. 3 people were arrested. Casito was intoxicated and police say he resisted arrest. That's when officers forced him to the ground. East Lansing police investigated the incident and do not believe officers used unnecessary force. Casito scheduled a meeting with the department to talk about the situation, but did not show up or file an official complaint before posting his injuries to Facebook. East Lansing Mayor Ruth Beyer praised police for their handling of the situation.
Since the Facebook post until today, many in the public have assumed the worst about our officers, which has been difficult for them and for city staff and for me. I would like to take this opportunity to thank our officers for everything that they do.
Though Mayor Beyer praised the law enforcement, she says more will be done to combat racism in East Lansing. The body cam footage is available on the city's website.
The coronavirus has given people quite the scare. Should we be worried flying out for spring break? The University Physician's Office sent an email to students regarding an update on the coronavirus. And the university had assembled a task force to monitor the movement of the virus. And now the university has suspended sponsored travel to China, Singapore, and Hong Kong. This, however, shouldn't affect anyone flying for their spring break plans, as Spencer Flynn from the Greater Lansing Regional Airport says.
The CDC has taken the steps, and they took them very early to keep this from being a real outbreak. They're on record. We had a conference call last week, and they're on record with saying they don't feel that there is really a high risk of contracting this in the United States. If you're going to contract it, it's because you went to a high-risk zone, and the United States is not that. So really what it was for our airport.
There is yet to be a confirmed case of the virus in the state of Michigan.
Coming up on Focal Point, we'll take a look at the weather for spring break.
It's not looking like East Lansing can expect much sun this week, but MSU has plans to install more solar panels on campus.
And Ramadan is during final exam week this year, but what does that mean for those students? Those stories and more when we come back.
I'm an English professor who studies comic books. Michigan State University is home to the largest publicly available comic art collection in the world. Examining comics through a scholarly lens can tell us a lot about who we are. They chronicle the aspirations and anxieties that define modern society. And a lot of my research provides context to why comics matter. My name is Julian Chambliss, and I am a Spartan.
Michigan State is making autonomous driving smarter and safer. We are mimicking the brain of the human driver. This is going to be a game changer in every aspect of our daily lives. Our vision is to enable autonomous driving to achieve a human level of perception and intelligence.
It's not just about transport, it's about how we live. And can we improve our cities because this new transportation is available to us?
Time to take a look at the weather.
Yep, there's been plenty of snow this week, but things are looking up. Kaylee Garrison is live here in the studio with the weather. Kaylee?
Thanks, Sam. Coming up, I will tell you all about our local forecast, but first, let's take a look out west. Looks like the rest of the country's keeping all the sunshine for themselves. We've got 53 in Seattle and 59 in Portland with some rain. 76 and 85 out in California, and then at the rest of the country, a lot of sunshine today. 50 in Rapid City, 68 in Dallas. North and South Carolina are a bit chillier this week, but even they get a little sunshine. And as always, 26 in Detroit. Now, I don't know about you, but I really wish I was in Cabo right now. Whether you're going out of country, out of state, or chilling on your couch at home, here are your current forecast spring break edition. We've got 77 and sunny in Cabo San Lucas, 74 and partly cloudy in Cancun. If you're heading to Disney World, only 64 today, but they are getting some warmer temperatures coming up. 30 and sunny in Chicago right now. And here are your local forecasts. We've got 22 in Marquette with snow and wind gusts as high as 40 miles per hour today. 25 and cloudy in Grand Rapids, 24 and mostly cloudy in East Lansing today, and 26 and mostly cloudy in Detroit today. And here is a look at your 7-day forecast. Unfortunately, you won't get as much of a suntan as you would in Cabo, but things are looking up this week. Mostly cloudy today with a high of 24 and a low of 17. 33 and partly cloudy tomorrow, and 22 for the low. There's a warm front coming in, so if you're around for spring break, you should enjoy the sunshine while you can. 47 on Sunday and Monday, 46 on Tuesday with a little sunshine. Bundle up because there's some precipitation and low temps coming in. 43 and rainy on Wednesday. We'll round out the week at 37 degrees with a 40% chance of rain in the morning and snow later in the day. So some pretty good temps coming up. Are you guys heading anywhere on spring break?
I'll be right here, so I'll be enjoying those high temperatures.
I'm actually going to Chicago, so whatever it is here, it's probably going to be about 10 degrees colder, plus the wind chill from Lake Michigan.
Definitely.
All right, well, changes to the MSU schedule may be coming soon. We have an update to add a fall break.
Plus, Ramadan falls during finals week this year. MSU officials are working on a plan for those who observe. Gabby Malta is live in the Spartan Newsroom with these stories and more. Gabby?
That's right, guys. An update now on the proposal to change MSU's academic calendar. The University Committee on Undergraduate Education approved the calendar changes this week to create a fall break in mid-October, cancel classes on Election Day and the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, plus add a week to winter break. Spring break would then move to the second week of March. The main purpose is to balance out the academic calendar. Currently, there's an extra week of classes in the spring. The chance has been in the works for a while now.
I think a lot of it might have just been like fear of change, and I mean the leadership itself might not have wanted to stir the pot, and I think we have a new administration who's much more willing to work with students.
MSU is the only Big Ten school that doesn't offer a fall break other than Thanksgiving. The proposal moves on to the University Council, and they will discuss it in March. If approved, it will go to President Stanley and the Board of Trustees. They will make the final decision. These changes would be implemented in the 2021-2022 school year, but a pilot fall break would happen this year. Dorms can be a fun place to start your college career, but what if the university made it a requirement to stay in the dorm for 2 years instead of just the one?
The dorms are an experience that almost every student is a part of. Akers and Hubbard are part of a new program on campus called Spartan Compass. Ian Jacobs is a resident director in Akers in charge of this program.
The department wanted to pilot Spartan Compass as a way to bring intentionality, bring identity, and bring a sense of community to Akers and Hubbard Hall.
The dorms are an experience that almost every student is a part of. Akers and Hubbard are part of a new program on campus called Spartan Compass. Ian Jacobs is a resident director in Akers in charge of this program.
The department wanted to pilot Spartan Compass as a way to bring intentionality, bring identity, and bring a sense of community to Akers and Hubbard Hall.
And the program so far is going rather well.
We do plan on making a shift, and that'll Spartan Compass will probably look a lot different next year than it did this year.
But one conversation that is circling around is if students should be required to stay 2 years in the dorm.
I think they're having conversations. I, to be honest, don't know who's part of those conversations. I don't know if it's happening on the president's level.
Another year in the dorm means another year doing your laundry in a shared environment. Another year using community bathrooms, and another year eating in the dining hall. But not everyone has a problem with that.
I've been here 2 months now, loving it, other than the fire drills in the middle of the night that Shaw Hall is famous for.
Kai has enjoyed the dorm, but he's ready to leave.
I already have an apartment picked out for next year.
Others agreed they didn't like the idea of a second year in the dorm, like Alex.
I was disappointed with knowing that I'd stay there the first year.
With all the new options for housing off campus, it's hard to blame them. For now, these students are glad that they are moving out. Reporting from East Lansing, I'm Chris Mills, Focal Point News.
There hasn't been any public talk of this happening as of yet. Go Green is not just a phrase MSU fans shout out on game days. It's also something the university puts into practice. The Board of Trustees voted to continue their promise of sustainability on campus by approving a new solar panel project. The panels will be built on the corner of Jolly and Hagedorn, much like the ones already on Mount Hope. The land underneath the solar panels will continue to be used for sheep grazing research. The Sustainability Department is planning on incorporating bee habitats in this area as well. Sustainability Director Amy Butler says that through this research project, MSU is setting an example for others.
Having this opportunity to do the research of it in conjunction with the solar field is encouraging because it shows perhaps as Consumers Energy or DTE or one of our other public utilities are creating large fields, maybe that's something that they could also be doing.
MSU estimates these panels will save around $27 million over the next 25 years. The project is expected to be completed in 2022. Muslim students who will observe Ramadan will do so during finals week this semester, posing a challenge for students who fast from sunup to sundown. The university is working to make sure students' needs are met during this time. Finals week is right around the corner, but for some students, exams aren't the only thing they're balancing. Ramadan is the holiest month of the year for Muslims. This year, it starts a few days before finals.
It'll begin in late April.
And Muslims partaking will fast every day from dawn to sunset.
And we're not allowed to eat or drink.
Ahmad Hamad and the Muslim Student Association would like to
make sure that Muslim needs and values are being met.
And shared their concerns with the administration.
Taking finals during when you're like physically and mentally tired is going to have like a kind of negative effect on the performance you're able to do.
Dining halls are another concern for Muslim students living on campus.
Dining hall options are often not Muslim friendly.
The term halal is food that is Muslim friendly and approved under Islamic law to eat. Foods such as pork and alcohol are restricted and make eating options even more limited during Ramadan.
When you've been fasting all day for 12, 14 plus hours and then you're not able to eat, that's a problem.
And dining hall hours vary.
Opening the cafeterias earlier and later and increasing halal options for students is something that could specifically be done for Ramadan.
Religious accommodations are being made.
If students need to, they could request to take their exams earlier.
Residence halls will also extend their hours and have Muslim-friendly food available at the library.
That can help combat like the fatigue issue and the mental tiredness that comes with fasting.
MSU will remind staff of the changes when it comes closer to finals. Hamad is working with ASMSU to finalize plans for the upcoming month. That's what's happening on campus. Reporting live from the Spartan Newsroom, I'm Gabby Malta.
Thank you, Gabby. Well, it was a busy week in sports for MSU.
And the new CEO of Disney has a connection to MSU. Chris Mills joins us with this week's sports.
Thanks, guys. Men's and women's hoops, along with hockey, were all in action this week. We've got the highlights, plus hear from all three coaches. That's coming up after the break.
Recently, I collaborated with a graduate student to create the first sensory-friendly Spartan chamber music concert. The performance is tailored for anyone with sensory sensitivities. For many kids, this may be their first experience in a concert hall, and we want to make it an unforgettable experience. And I think that's what we've done. My name is Tasha Warren, and I am a Spartan.
Plastics are everywhere in our daily life. Though they solve a lot of problems, an over-reliance on them has serious consequences. Potentially because we've become so addicted to plastic, we have a problem with sustainability and pollution related to plastics. In our lab here at MSU, our vision is to produce environmentally friendly plastics using sustainable resources and a much smaller footprint.
Welcome back. I'm Chris Mills with This Week's Sports. The men's basketball team is chasing an invite to the big dance, and while the chances of the Spartans not making the tournament are slim, they want to bolster their resume with as many wins as possible. A win over number 18 Iowa would raise some eyebrows. Let's go to the highlights. Spartans back-to-back wins, and they're back at the Breslin for this one. Thomas Kithier and Cassius Winston pulling off the pick and roll. Kithier with the easy layup. Winston with 9 assists on the night. Later, Luka Garza driving. He is stuffed at the rim by Marcus Bingham. Oh, but he's not done yet as Winston takes it up the floor, dishes it out to Aaron Henry, and then inside to Bingham, who pulls off the circus shot. He started and ended that play. Second half here, Winston draining the corner three, finally coming alive in the second half. He only had 1 point in the first, but made it up for it with 19 in the second. Spartans take this one 78-70 for a big-time resume booster.
It's the most physical game that I played in since the Gene Cady days. I thought it was, and I thought our youth and our weakness showed, because second half they just killed us on the offensive glass.
Michigan State moves on to 19-9 on the season with some critical games coming down the stretch. The Spartans play Maryland, Penn State, and Ohio State. Today, those teams are ranked 9th, 16th, and 23rd. Not an easy way to end the regular season. Women's basketball was in action as well this week. The Spartans have had their ups and downs, but they've ripped off a few dubs over the past few weeks, and taking on a struggling Illinois team was a good way to get another one. Spartans trying to bounce back after their loss to Michigan. Second quarter, Shea Colley with a pump fake, then takes it inside and gets a smooth layup. This was her second game back from her knee injury, 14 points for her on the night. Later, Spartans looking to increase their lead, then Nia Clouden tries to dish it outside, but it's intercepted by Kennedy Miles, who brings it up the court, then Euro steps past Tori Osment for the layup. Spartans looking for more here as they move the ball around. Eliza Winston gets in on the front and drains the three, going 2 for 2 from beyond the arc. The Spartans take this one 72-58 the final. Susie Merchant and Co. have now won 4 of their last 5.
Really everybody contributed well. I mean, Taryn and Clouden were Taryn and Clouden, and everybody else just kind of elevated their game. So it was a good team win for sure.
Spartans now 15-13 on the year and will have their regular season finale this Sunday for senior night when Penn State rolls into East Lansing. It seems like the ice has been melting underneath the men's hockey team. The last win for Danton Cole and the Spartans was 3 weeks ago, and home ice during the Big Ten tournament is slipping away. Even one win over Ohio State could keep the Spartan spirits high. Let's go to the highlights. Big crowd at Mount Ice Arena as the Spartans laced up their skates for the second game after dropping the first one to Ohio State. Also senior night as some were playing their last game at Munn. First period, Spartans are on the attack. The puck game moved around the net, and Patrick Konorenko is there to slap it out of the air and get the Spartans on the board. Less than 20 seconds left in the first. Spartans looking for one more as Patrick Konorenko dangles and stretches out Ohio State's Tommy Napier, then leaves it for Jagger Joshua for an easy finish. Spartans up after 1. Fast forward to the third period tie game, but Tanner Lazinski gets the puck and rifles it into the left corner for the power play goal. Ohio State would hit an empty netter as this one gets away from Michigan State 4-2 the final.
Resolute. That's what I kind of left the guys with Saturday night, and that's what we'll lead off with today, talking to them before we head out on the ice. And you know what, we find ourselves, a lot changes in 2 weeks, and just as much can change in the next 2 weeks, and that's kind of how we've been looking at things. And hey, some things bounce your way, sometimes they don't. I thought we did some real good things.
That's 4 straight losses for Michigan State and its 5th loss in the last 6 games. The Spartans have 2 final games this weekend at Notre Dame. That's 2 more chances at the very least to get out of 6th place in the Big Ten. That's what's happening this week in sports. I'm Chris Mills. Alina, Sam, back to you guys.
Thanks, Chris. This week, we saw the good and bad side of Hollywood.
Zaria Phillips is here to walk us through a busy week in news entertainment. Zaria?
That's right. Film producer Harvey Weinstein could be spending the rest of his life behind bars after a Manhattan jury found him guilty of rape and sexual assault this week. 6 women testified in the trial, and more than 80 women have accused him of sexual assault. The survivors are calling themselves silence breakers, and sentencing will range from 5 to 29 years.
Today, I stand with my sister silence breakers as we celebrate the conviction of our abuser, Harvey Weinstein. While it is disappointing that he was not found guilty on all counts, the truth is that this verdict is a triumph for survivors everywhere, for all of us silence breakers, and for all of his survivors.
Do you wonder what a business degree from Michigan State can lead to? Just ask Bob Chapek, who was just named the new CEO of the Walt Disney Company. The former Spartan has found great success in the entertainment industry since his days spent on Michigan State's campus. Chapek was the former head of parks and resorts for the company and has worked for Disney for nearly 3 decades. He graduated from MSU in 1984, receiving a master's in business administration. Bob Iger had been CEO for 15 years. He'll now be executive chairman. Chapek was appointed as CEO in a unanimous decision, and he is the 7th CEO in the history of Disney. Disney is also getting applause for adding its first LGBTQ character in the upcoming film Onward. The animated film shows 2 elf brothers who seek the last bit of magic in the world to spend one day with their dead father. The character, Officer Spencer, will be voiced by LGBTQ writer and director Lena Waithe. But not everyone's happy. Disney has received some criticism, being accused of pandering. The film debuts next month. That's a look at entertainment this week. I'm Zaria Phillips. Alina?
Thanks, Zaria. As we head into Lent this week, we first celebrated Fat Tuesday with the tradition of eating those delicious, sweet, and highly fattening pączkis.
Focal Point's Kaylee Garrison was up before the crack of dawn to show up with others who wanted to be the first in line in our Focal Point Friday finale.
It's early.
I got here about 5:30.
But not too early to celebrate a tradition that only comes around once a year. Dennis Moses made a special trip for his wife.
She's actually still sleeping. Her alarm clock will go off in about 15 minutes.
She won't have to wait long.
Not even dressed for this occasion.
Dennis is the first person in line here at Cops and Donuts to get his pączki on Fat Tuesday.
We got our donuts today.
He was one of many who celebrated a tradition that occurs the Tuesday before Lent every year. It's not even 6:15, and he's already on his way out the door. But for Colleen Treelor, the day is just getting started.
Pączki's a big day.
Cops and Donuts encouraged everyone to pre-order their pączkis, so while employees were out front selling them, employees were in the back packing them up.
Not stressed, just crazy chaos.
Michelle Bryant owns the Lansing Cops and Donuts location. She says they sold over 400 dozen pączki last year and expects the same this year.
If you have a Cops and Donuts donut, you know it's the place to go.
It doesn't matter how old or young. How's your pączkis taste? These customers seem to savor the sweet treat that only comes around once a year. In Lansing,
Custard, chocolate, and delicious.
Haley Garrison, Focal Point News.
Did you eat a pączki this Tuesday?
I did have one on Tuesday. Actually, I got a 4-pack from the store. I had 2 myself. Roommates got the other 2, but I think it's safe to say I should lay off the calories for a little while.
Well, you should reward yourself, Sam.
I appreciate that, Alina.
That's it for today's edition of Focal Point News. I'm Alina Juravel.
And I'm Sam Britton. Thanks for watching.